Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. I got a video today from FBE Capital. Again, goal is 100,000 by the end of the year. If you guys can help me reach that, I'd really appreciate that. So let's get that chow. It's chow time.
America, the land where women can do whatever the hell they want. They can own guns, sexy guns, and shoot them all day long. Women know that they are free, unless of course they're unhinged woke lunatics.
And I'm so worried for so many people.
And your cheap ass fucking gas, cause you're fucking broke as shit.
Hey, just because I'm broke, what's wrong with cheap gas?
Bitch, recount the vote.
Get broke!
And I don't know what to do. I know you're gonna ask me what to do.
No, this is all gonna be taken away because of him.
I swear to God, if you idiots elect that demented man.
We live in a country that hates women. We can't pretend anymore.
Right, because Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, all those Middle Eastern countries love women more than we do, right?
4B movement starting. You know what we're gonna do? We're not gonna dye our hair anymore. We're not gonna do makeup. We're not gonna go get the skin stuff. We're not gonna dress up and look nice.
I've gotten a taste of what it is to be a stay-at-home wifey. I woke up early, I made my man some protein pancakes.
So just to be clear, we will not be sleeping with men for the next 4 years.
For real, fuck men. Fuck all of you.
Then we went to the gym, because you gotta stay hot for your man. You can't be an uggo.
And making women think that we need to look a certain way or be a certain way or you.
Be a menace to men on dating apps.
Stop dating men. Stop having sex with men. Stop talking to men. Divorce your husband.
You are a cult. A fucking cult.
There is no dating men. There is no marrying men. There is no living with men, and there's no having sex with men.
What about the 52% of white women who don't care what you say?
I get to stay at home and take care of the house, do laundry, cook, clean, raise a couple babies, go shopping, and use my man's money.
Pretty much.
What are you gonna do about that?
I don't know what to do.
Oh boy, the liberal wokies are truly broken, my friends, and I don't see them recovering anytime soon.
I can't do this anymore.
They are absolutely losing their screaming into the abyss, shaving their heads, and yelling 4B movement all day long, as if it's some sort of magic spell.
The 4B movement.
The 4B movement.
4B movement.
The 4B movement.
Now the funny part of them jumping on this 4B bandwagon is not only that it's completely useless, but more importantly, it's not even original anymore. Since they already did this earlier this year in April.
They did!
And in March of 2020.
It's just so funny because we covered all the 4B when it first came out in April, and then all of a sudden it spiked up again when Trump won.
2023 and in May of 2022, but somehow this time it's for realsies.
Ladies, where are we going? 4B movement for real.
Yeah, sure thing,
For
bro.
real.
Please drop a like if you think that these women refusing to date men does nothing to impact you, and comment down below what you think. Because these type of women seem to completely lack any type of self-awareness that no Republican, moderate, or independent man is even interested in them.
If you're a conservative woman, I'm gonna seduce your husband. I'm gonna seduce your husband. I'm going to look him in the eye.
They're all crazy radical feminists, and most of them weren't even sleeping with men to begin with.
As somebody who's been 4B for
I feel like this is like the lesbians really took this to heart.
2 years now.
But somehow they're gonna take away that thing that they don't even have. Doesn't make any sense, but we'll get to that in a minute. Because more importantly, every single time these left-wing women don't get their way, they start bitching and moaning about how it's all men's fault and that they will stop dating and sleeping with men, but it's just a lazy attempt to try and control men, kind of like French titty protests that always go nowhere and are easily forgotten. I must have seen a dozen of these, and I literally have no idea what these were about. But anyways, back to the insane propaganda of women supposedly losing all of their rights.
The fact that you would purposefully vote for somebody who wants to take away my rights as a woman.
What the heck are you talking about?
I was trying to guess who voted against my rights.
What rights am I losing?
Now these idiots love to blame men for quote-unquote losing all of their rights, but not only did they not lose a single right.
Grow the f up. Nobody's taking your rights away, and trust me.
How do I tell my daughter
that half of America hates her.
What fucking right?
It's like, why would you tell her that? Like you guys are just so instilling the mental illness into your kids.
Are you losing as a woman?
And if the only rights we're talking about are allowing men to come into the bathroom with me and play in women's sports, and the right to kill an unborn child, I'm sorry, you're crazy and kind of demonic, so...
But they also completely missed the main point, which is that almost half of all women voted for Donald Trump. So why are you blaming the men when you can't even convince women to vote with you?
Americans are sick and tired of racism and division. Therefore, they have rejected the left. The left in the US is the most racist and divisive group of people in the country.
And like divorcing their husbands and stuff. And I'm like, go for it, honey. Leave all the men out there for the conservative women to repopulate with, because we don't need this in the next generation. This is mental disorders.
But hey, female libtards will not let logic and basic facts stop them from being absolute lunatics. And so it's no wonder that they completely mangled and f***ed up the entire meaning of the Korean 4B movement, which is not at all what American women think it is.
Don't worry, I've got you. The 4B movement over in South Korea is starting to get a lot of attention.
It's a pretty small fringe movement.
Like I said before, it's not a general mainstream idea.
First of all, what does 4B stand for? B is the Korean word for no.
P is in Korean, and it's actually a Chinese character.
Starting a movement called the 4B movement, also known as the 4 No's.
Actually a Chinese character for saying not to do.
Right.
The fact that South Korea has like one of the lowest fertility rates in the entire world right now.
True.
So yeah, I would argue that it's pretty effective.
4B is not responsible for the low birth rates, and much of it has to do with the extremely expensive cost of living.
Most of the females, they do not want to get married or give birth because of many other reasons. For example, like unaffordable house prices.
Women who are also fed up with dating.
But it's not like they do not want to date or they do not want to have sex, with guys.
So they're basically wrong on every single point that the 4B movement stands for, which perfectly explains why 4B never took off in the US in the first place and why it never will.
And now, the feminists, the girls who were posting for this 4B movement are being canceled.
I think the B4 movement is absolutely disgusting and shameful and so disrespectful.
Now, what is truly ironic and a real cherry on top this 4B madness is that most of the people that are screaming 4B have no idea that 4B is actually deeply anti-LGBTQ and deeply homophobic.
Because anti-LGBTQ sentiment has been a big problem within some of these more provocative groups. They're just as transphobic and homophobic.
You see, like I said earlier, 4B is a radical feminist movement, which means that they are super pro-women, and unlike the West, they have zero doubts about what a woman is.
What is a woman?
That's a stupid question, dude.
Professionally.
I'm a feminist, and I don't hate men.
Okay, so you are a self-described feminist. What is a woman?
Why do you want to know?
What is a woman? It's not a trick question.
You're trying to get a gotcha.
You're a feminist. Shouldn't you be able to tell me what a woman is?
So as you can see, this makes it absolutely hilarious when you see these idiots on the left that are pro-LGBTQ or pro-trans promoting the 4B movement.
For all the straight girls that want to join the 4B movement, we've got you. Come on over.
As a 51-year-old transgender woman, I come to applaud their efforts and stand in solidarity with them.
Not knowing that they're literally supporting a movement that hates them.
They view trans women as infiltrators to the women's movement.
4B is not that popular, and it's actually often criticized by Korean leftists for being an incredibly transphobic and homophobic movement.
They also viewed women in romantic partnerships with men regardless of how...
It actually makes sense to me if they're that strongly about women and women's rights and women's things. Yeah, why would they want LGBTQT people? They're not women.
How that relationship was going as traitors to women.
That many Korean women find way too aggressive for their taste, and so it never really took off in Korea itself.
But compared to the period of time between 2016 and 2020 at that time, I think the rhetoric itself, the gender war itself has waned a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you take a look at general elections, they do not have any women-centric policies.
You see, South Korea is a very unique country where competition for high school and university is on a whole nother level.
Students are coached to the point of exhaustion.
제 자신이 읽는 거죠, 뭐.
In Korea, the university you attend is regarded by the society as one of the most important factors for determining your success in life.
Average, they'll do 15 hours a day.
South Korean students that easily make it into Oxford, Harvard, or MIT constantly get refused by their own Korean universities, even when they have perfect SAT scores. And if you don't get into the best universities in Korea, then your job prospects are basically zero and you'll be working your ass off while not making any money.
지원서들을 쫙 바닥에 깔아두고 좋은 대학이 적혀져 있는 지원자들은 한쪽으로 두고 그렇지 않은 지원자들의 그 지원서들은 모두 그냥 쓰레기통으로 버린다 이런 말이 있을 정도로
Korean education system is very competitive and then very pressured, and they didn't allow me to do something I want.
Millions of South Koreans struggle financially even though they easily work 50 to 60 hours a week, which is technically not even allowed since the legal limit was reduced from 68 hours a week to 52 hours a week in 2018. Now, in addition to this, the 5-day work week is also relatively new in South Korea in terms of labor laws, since it was only introduced in 2004, and before that, the 6-day work week was a lot more common. However, recently, some Korean companies have reintroduced the 6-day work week for their executives, which is putting even more pressure on the lower skilled workers to work harder and longer without complaining. So clearly, the low birth rate in South Korea and the reluctance to have kids is not because of bad dating experiences with men, as these Western feminists want you to believe.
아이를 몇 명 정도 낳고 싶은가요? 마음 같아서는 많이 낳고 싶은데 막 일도 하고 이러다 보면 아무래도 커리어에도 영향이 갈 것 같아서 한 명도 어렵지 않을까? 한 명으로 또 충분하지 않을까? 이런 생각을.
저는 결혼을 완전 하고 싶다 주의거든요. 애들도 너무 좋아하고 그리고 꼭 나중에 가정을 이루고 싶고.
혹시 아이는 몇 명 정도 낳고 싶어 하세요?
저는 2명 낳고 싶은데 이거는 타협한 결과예요. 원래는 한 3명, 4명 이렇게 좀 많이 낳고 싶었는데 아무래도 한국에서 3, 4명 이상의 아이를 낳고 키우려면 엄청난 부자가 되어야 할 것 같다는 생각이 있거든요.
It's because of an extreme case of economic mismanagement by the Korean government. So when you put all of this together, it makes perfect sense why so many Korean women do not want to get pregnant, since they simply had to work their ass off ever since they were 12 years old.
So I always studied even after the midnight. So I hate that. So looking back to my student days, it was terrible.
And so they obviously don't want to give all of that up, which brings us back to the misinformed libtards in the West, because when Roe v. Wade got overturned, we saw the same delusional rhetoric of going on sex strikes and swearing off men. But clearly this did not happen, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about 4B again. And so ironically, this whole cry for 4B in the West perfectly illustrates two things that feminists try to fight against. One, the idea that women are only good for one thing, sex.
It kind of feeds back into the conversation of white women don't really have any internal power and they just use sexual exploitation and emotional manipulation, because it sounds to me like the only thing that white women are coming up with is not putting out. So that tells me that the only power that they can come up with is their bodies.
Yep, definitely not a power move. And the second is the idea that feminists are just a bunch of man-hating weirdos. Because again, the moment they did not get their way, they threw a temper tantrum, started cutting off their hair and swore off men, even though 44% of women voted the exact same way as those men.
A fundamental premise of an organized and secure country is that there are borders, you must be vetted to come in, and you must obey the law.
You really shouldn't be that worried about him becoming president. He was already president, you know that, right? And you survived.
So they're gonna shave their heads, abstain from marriage, dating, and procreating? I didn't think we could win twice in one day, but here we are.
And so, if you're not a man-hating movement, then why are you only targeting men for something that men and women did together, and you still had a massive amount of men also voting for Harris? So singling out men makes absolutely no sense. Now, in addition to all of this, the lure in the West for male validation and attention is simply too strong, and there's no way the majority of women are ever going to give that up, and they're not going to make themselves ugly or unappealing to men. Not just despite men they don't agree with and are already not interacting or sleeping with.
I can tell you one thing right now, marriage is the farthest thing from on the table. And the men, don't even get me started about dating. To think, I was still entertaining a few moderates here and there sometimes. No, honey, no.
You see, this woman wasn't even sleeping with Republican, independent, or third-party men anyways, and that applies to all of her lunatic comrades who believe in the same nonsense as she does. Since unless you're a 100% pussified soy boy, left-wing lunatics want nothing to do with you. Which means that the 4B movement in the West could only ever have friendly fire, where the most submissive, self-deprecating white guys for Harris are the ones who are not going to get laid, and conservatives are simply going to outbreed them.
The only way this works is if everybody does it. The same with voting. We can't even get them to fucking vote it in line. You think you're gonna get them to stop fucking their husbands?
Stay free, my friends. This was Unhinged Woke Women Are Done With Men. Please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos.
Shout outs to FBE Capital, always doing great deep dives in the fuckery of women. And this is probably one of the biggest fuckeries out there, is putting all the fault onto men when, again, a good chunk of men voted for them and a good chunk of women voted for us. So why are you just man haters? Please like, comment, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. And I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.